When President Kennedy was assassinated, Malcolm X made a comment in the press, by the way, that well, what something to the effect, what else can you expect? This is the chickens coming home to roost. The Nation of Islam quickly distanced themselves from that comment and that mentality. Do you think it hurt Malcolm X? Those comments hurt him, and if so, how bad do you think it hurt him?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the things to understand is the Nation of Islam was radical in terms of its reorientation of how Black people saw themselves in this country. But it was it was a very conservative political organization. Malcolm was not allowed to go to the March on Washington. That was something that the Nation of Islam did not want its leading spokesperson to go and do, nor its members. It was an apolitical organization, for lack of a better term, at least in the formal sense of what politics constituted then and now. Yet, Malcolm went to the March on Washington. Malcolm wanted to speak out more forcefully. In 1962, when Ronald Stokes was murdered in Los Angeles, he went out there and wanted more political action, more forceful, retaliatory action if possible. The Nation of Islam was not going to allow Malcolm to do that. They were politically conservative and wanting to kind of keep the peace between themselves and the United States government as much as possible, and to economically address the ills of the Black community, as well as to do so theologically, religiously, through the building of mosques and reorienting Black people towards themselves. Malcolm, by the time 1963 rolled around, had already become a very political person, seeking, a kind of more traditional resistance than the one the Nation of Islam offered. So when the question and answer session began, Malcolm had gotten through his speech that day about.
So he had already been instructed not to speak.
And he followed suit. He delivered his remarks without any comment about Kennedy's assassination until the question and answer session, and he couldn't help himself.
Well, excuse me, Dr. Ambar, but I'm told that he usually didn't ask for answering questions, period, after he spoke. But on this particular occasion, he did, almost as if he was welcoming a question like that, looking for an opportunity to say what he said.
Yeah, it's I can't get inside the head of Malcolm, but it's quite possible. Look, I think the point is that by late 1963, he and Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam had already begun to grow apart. And Malcolm's desire to become more engaged politically was very present and preeminent in his thinking. And so if it hadn't been that conversation or that quote about Kennedy,
it would have come up somewhere.
It would have been something else. Something else would have happened. Somebody else would have, Malcolm was becoming uneasy, I think it's fair to say. And, Manning Marable's book and other texts speak to this, with sort of the trajectory of the Nation of Islam as a, religious organization that was in very much limited politically. There's no question that he disobeyed Elijah Muhammad. He crossed the line. He was suspended for it.
Yeah, I think that was when he spent some time with Muhammad Ali out in.
Yeah, and there's lots of good pop culture movies and documentaries and miniseries about that now. And it's when he was on the outside that made Muhammad Ali have to choose, right? Ultimately, he decided to remain within the Nation of Islam at that time.